When people talk about Netflix, they often frame it as a story of convenience. No commercials, watch anytime, binge entire seasons in a weekend. But Netflix did not disrupt entertainment by making it easier to watch content. It disrupted entertainment by changing how stories are created, distributed, and psychologically consumed. Netflix's true revolution wasn't technological alone. It was behavioral. It quietly retrained audiences, creators, and studios to relate to storytelling in an entirely new way. One episode, one click, one binge at a time. Netflix's origin could not have been more unglamorous. In the late 1990s, it was a DVD buy mail company competing with brick-and-mortar rental stores like Blockbuster. There was no talk of awards, prestige television, or cultural dominance. The initial insight was logistical rather than creative. DVDs were lightweight, could be shipped cheaply, and did not require late fees. Eliminating late fees sounds trivial, but it revealed something profound about Netflix's mindset. The company understood that friction, not price, was the real enemy. People did not hate renting movies. They hated the anxiety and punishment surrounding it. By removing that friction, Netflix reframed entertainment as guilt-free consumption. This customer-first instinct became the backbone of Netflix's strategy. When streaming technology matured, Netflix did not see it as a way to distribute the same product faster. It saw it as an opportunity to redesign the entire experience. On-demand streaming removed schedules, scarcity, and waiting. Viewers were no longer passive recipients of programming decisions made by networks. They became active choosers. This shift in control altered not just convenience, but power. Whoever controlled the interface controlled the audience relationship, and Netflix moved aggressively to claim that position. The most radical decision Netflix made was not launching streaming, but committing to original content. Licensing content was safe. Producing it was existential risk. Yet Netflix understood a hard truth about platforms. If you do not own what people come for, you are always vulnerable. Studios could pull their libraries. Competitors could outbid you. Original content transformed Netflix from a distributor into a studio, but one with a fundamentally different operating philosophy. Netflix did not rely on intuition alone. It relied on data. This is where Netflix truly broke with Hollywood tradition. Instead of greenlighting shows based on executive taste pilot episodes or focus groups, Netflix analyzed viewing behavior at scale. What people watched, when they paused, when they quit, and what they binged became signals. House of Cards was not commissioned because it felt prestigious, but because data suggested that its ingredients, director, star, genre would resonate. This did not eliminate creative risk, but it reframed it. Risk became probabilistic rather than purely instinctive. Binge watching emerged, not as a gimmick, but as a deliberate design choice. Releasing entire seasons at once violated decades of television logic built around weekly anticipation and advertising slots. Netflix recognized that storytelling could be shaped by this freedom. Writers were no longer constrained by cliffhangers designed to retain audiences for the next week. Stories could unfold like long novels rather than episodic loops. This changed pacing, character development, and emotional immersion. Viewers were not just watching shows, they were inhabiting them. This model had profound psychological effects. Binging collapsed the distance between desire and gratification. It rewarded immersion over patience. Netflix did not invent this impulse, but it optimized for it. Autoplay, personalized recommendations, and seamless transitions were not neutral features. They were behavioral architecture. Netflix understood that attention is not infinite, but habit can be engineered. Once watching became effortless, stopping required intention. Entertainment shifted from event-based to ambient. As Netflix expanded globally, its ambitions grew sharper. Unlike traditional studios that exported American content, Netflix invested in local production across dozens of countries. This was not altruism, it was strategy. Local stories created local loyalty, which fed global scale. A Korean series could become a global phenomenon. A Spanish drama could travel continents. Netflix reframed globalization not as cultural dilution, but as cultural exchange, mediated by algorithms rather than executives. Stories no longer needed to be universal to succeed. They needed to be authentic enough to resonate somewhere and discoverable everywhere. Internally, Netflix reinforced this disruption with a radical corporate culture. The famous freedom and responsibility philosophy removed many traditional controls. Employees were treated like adults, not resources. High performance was demanded, but bureaucracy was minimized. This culture mirrored the product: philosophy, reduce friction, increase autonomy, and trust data, and judgment over rigid rules. It created speed, but also volatility. Netflix accepted this trade-off consciously. By the time Netflix became a household name, it had already altered the entertainment industry's foundations. Cable bundles weakened. Appointment viewing eroded. Studios scrambled to build their own streaming platforms. The old model of scarcity collapsed under the weight of abundance. Netflix was no longer competing with other channels. It was competing with sleep social media and every other claim on attention. Entertainment became an infinite scroll, and it is exactly here that the deeper tension of Netflix's story begins to emerge. Because once a company optimizes entertainment for maximum consumption and infinite choice, it must confront whether attention can be stretched without consequence, and whether storytelling designed for binging risks losing cultural staying power, shared moments, and meaning over time. And that unresolved tension is the unfinished thought we must now carry forward into the next part, where Netflix's disruption is tested against saturation competition, creative fatigue, and the long-term cost of turning entertainment into an always-on experience. And when this unresolved tension is carried into Netflix's era of maturity, the disruption begins to turn inward, because changing an industry is easier than sustaining the habits you create once everyone else copies them. Netflix now operates in a world. It helped design a world crowded with streaming platforms, fragmented attention, and audiences who are no longer impressed by abundance alone. The question Netflix must answer is no longer how to free viewers from schedules, but how to make stories matter when nothing ever truly ends and everything is always available. Saturation is the first test. When Netflix was novel, binging felt like liberation. Today, it often feels like exhaustion. Endless choice produces decision fatigue. Autoplay that once felt magical can feel intrusive. The same algorithms that surface content efficiently can flatten discovery into familiarity. Netflix built a system optimized for engagement, but engagement is not the same as attachment. Viewers may watch more, yet remember less. In this environment, success is no longer measured by hours streamed alone, but by cultural residue, which stories linger, which characters endure, and which moments enter shared memory. Competition intensifies this pressure. Studios that once fed Netflix content now compete with it directly. Each platform fights to become the center of attention, and audiences respond by rotating subscriptions rather than committing deeply. This erodes the psychological lock-in Netflix once enjoyed. In response, Netflix has leaned into volume and variety, ensuring there is always something new. But novelty has diminishing returns. When everything is new, nothing feels special. The binge model, so powerful at first, risks compressing emotional impact by removing anticipation and communal rhythm. Creative fatigue becomes the second test. Writers and creators now operate in a system that rewards immediate completion rates and fast hooks. Stories are shaped to prevent early drop-off sometimes at the expense of patience and nuance. Netflix's data-driven approach, once revolutionary, now faces its own limits. Data can reveal what people watch, but not always why they care. Some of the most enduring stories in history grew slowly resisted easy categorization and demanded time. The challenge for Netflix is learning when to trust data and when to protect creative risk from it. Netflix has begun to adapt subtly. Staggered releases, event-style launches, and increased emphasis on franchise worlds signal a recognition that shared moments still matter. Cultural impact is amplified when people watch together, not just alone. The binge is evolving from default to option. Netflix is experimenting with reintroducing rhythm without reverting to rigid schedules. This reflects a broader realization. Freedom does not mean absence of structure. It means choosing the right structure for meaning to form. Global storytelling remains Netflix's most durable advantage. While competition intensifies in the US, Netflix's international investments continue to pay cultural dividends. Stories born outside traditional centers now define global conversation. This decentralization of storytelling may be Netflix's most lasting contribution. By proving that subtitles are not a barrier and that authenticity travels, Netflix permanently altered who gets to tell stories at scale. Even if individual shows fade, the shift in power endures. Ultimately, Netflix's legacy will not be judged by subscriber counts or quarterly growth alone. It will be judged by whether it transformed entertainment into something disposable or expanded the range of voices and forms that could be heard. Disruption always carries cost. Netflix's task now is not to undo binging, but to mature it to balance immersion with reflection, abundance with significance. In the end, Netflix's story reveals a truth about innovation itself. Every breakthrough changes behavior, and every behavior change creates new responsibilities. Netflix taught the world to watch differently. Now it must teach itself how to create differently in response. The future of entertainment will not belong to the company that offers the most content, but to the one that understands when to slow the scroll, restore anticipation, and let stories breathe long enough to become part of who we are. If this exploration of Netflix's rise and reckoning has reshaped how you think about entertainment, attention, and storytelling, consider subscribing to the channel for more deep narratives about companies that redefine culture, and leave a comment, sharing whether you believe binge-watching enhanced storytelling or quietly diminished it, because that question captures the heart of what Netflix changed and what it must now decide to protect as it moves forward.